Maze Sprinters, Adventures in a Complicated Maze, Adventure Stories for Kids. Written by Jeff Child. Narrated by John H. Feskins. Introduction. In a distant land there is a maze. Two young men are stuck, banished from their kingdom, not knowing what to do. Their only way back is to finish the maze and get to the palace from whence they came. Not sure of where to go, they have to figure out a way to cooperate and defeat the dangerous creatures in their paths. Will they be able to restore what was theirs and abandon this wretched place? Quickly start listening and find out. Chapter 1. Trapped. Rannis looked at the ground. He just barely got up. He didn't remember exactly what had happened, but he knew he didn't feel good. "Oh, my head," he said. "That's got to be the biggest headache I have ever had." He looked over and saw his brother lie down next to him. He watched him breathing. Yes, he was still alive. So Rannis decided to be kind and let him sleep. In the meantime, he wanted to know where he was. He looked up and saw big walls of concrete surrounding him. What is going on here?" he caught himself saying out loud. This is what woke up his brother. When Rannis noticed his brother waking up, he leaned over and asked him how he was feeling. "Giant headache," was the answer. "Where are we?" "I have no idea, Alvis. No idea whatsoever." "Whoa," Alvis said. "Where did these come from?" "Oh, you mean the walls?" "Again, no idea. Is there anything else you want to ask me that I don't know?" "Never mind," Alvis said. "Let's see where we can find an exit." "Simple," Rannis said. "There is one over there." "Yes, and another one over there, so which one do we choose?" "Well, before we do, let's just go over what just happened. How did we end up here in the first place?" Alvis began to think. "Well, first there was the Count. He visited us. I remember my parents were having a good time at the lunch table with him. We joined, we ate, and I don't remember what happened after that." "Did someone poison us? Did someone put us to sleep and then dumped us over here?" Rannis asked. "That's what I'm thinking, brother. But like I said, I don't remember." "Well, we cannot stay here. We need to get back to the palace and figure out what's going on. Don't you agree?" "Absolutely." "Anyway, what now?" "Let's just pick one," Alvis said. "If you don't know where you're going, then it doesn't matter, does it?" "I guess you're right." The two brothers got up and chose a route. They walked around the corner of the stony wall and noticed they had to make another choice. "Left or right?" Rannis asked. "Right. Always choose the right," Alvis guessed. Alvis was usually a bit more determined and sloppy in his ways. He didn't doubt. He didn't question things. He just wanted to get things done without considering all options or being picky about it. Rannis, on the other hand, was all about details, safety, and making the correct decisions by analyzing everything to the core. They were an interesting duo, these two siblings, and they were about to find out that their personalities would clash in this maze. But for now, Rannis just followed his brother, who was pretending that he knew exactly where they were going. They walked around the corner and saw another choice between two paths. Chapter 2. Plant. "This way, to the right," Alvis said. "Hold on a minute," Rannis said, holding him back. "If we keep turning right every time, then aren't we just going in circles?" Alvis looked at him a little skeptically, raising one eyebrow. Then he said, "You think too much. Let's just go and see where it takes us." "Okay, fine. This time we'll go right again. But with the next choice, I want to decide." "No problem. It doesn't matter to me." "How do you do that?" Rannis asked. "Do what?" "Not caring. I worry so much I drive myself crazy sometimes. How do you shut off?" "Oh, that. Well, I usually try not to overanalyze things. For example, do you see that shrub over there? It may be there because it rains here sometimes. It may be there because someone planted it there, or it's just a pathetic piece of weed. Either way, why would I care? It's just there, and it's not going away." "I guess you're right. It doesn't matter why it's there, does it?" "Nope, and that's how you can live a worry-free life, my man," Alvis said. "Wow, I never thought of it that way. When I look at a bush like that, I want to know everything about it. I wonder what it does, how it survives, and most of all, what it feeds on. But you're right, it really doesn't matter." They both walked past the mysterious bush, a plant neither had ever seen before. But suddenly, a long tentacle came out of the dangerous plant and wrapped itself around Alvis. "Hey!" he screamed. "Let me go!" Rannis leaped to the plant and punched it, but it just became worse. Another tentacle came out of the shrub, and another, until there were 5 more tentacles. "Whoa," Rannis said as he stepped back. He watched his brother being held up in the air by the monstrous plant. "It's a man-eating plant!" Rannis shouted. "How do you know it's going to eat me?" Alvis asked. "Because of that," Rannis said, as he pointed to something else coming out of the shrub. A large head without eyes, but with a mouth and sharp teeth, rose to the top and was about to devour Alvis, the one who ironically didn't care about the plant they passed. Rannis bent over and picked up a rock. He threw it at the monstrous plant and watched it make painful sounds. The plant screamed. Rannis picked up another rock. "Take this!" he yelled as he threw it. The plant screamed again, and it let go of Alvis, who quickly ran towards his brother. They were both standing with their backs against the maze wall on the other side, watching the head disappear into the bush. They looked at each other and sighed. "Thanks, man," Alvis said. "You're welcome. Now, don't you think we should analyze the plants a bit more?" Rannis asked. "Not really. We just know that this one was a man-eating plant, so don't go near it. If we see other plants, we'll be a little more careful as well. That's all." "Oh, the simplicity of my brother," Rannis thought. "You could write a book about it. A very short book." Chapter 3. Split Up. They came to another path that deviated from their course, surrounded by tall walls, like the others. The maze had a mysterious feel to it, almost like they were being watched by some dreary entity, but still feeling lonely between the stark contrast between the gray walls and the yellow-brownish paths they tread. "Should we go over here?" Rannis asked. "Yes, that way," Alvis answered. "Wait a minute," Rannis said. "I don't know about this one." "Now what? Let's just go. Stop complaining, you wino." "What did you just call me?" Rannis said, coming closer and clenching his fists. "You heard me," Alvis answered. "You make a big deal out of everything. How do you even know where we're going, huh? You don't. So don't pretend to be a little know-it-all because it doesn't suit you. At least with my decisions, we're getting somewhere." "Yes, but where? How do you know we're not going in circles, or worse, farther away from our destination? We need to look for signs of something, anything that will tell us we're going into the correct direction." "And how do you suppose we do that? There is nothing here, nothing. If you don't like my methods, then feel free to go the other way." "Fine," Rannis said. "Maybe I will." "Fine, go ahead." "Fine." "Fine." "Will you stop saying fine?" Rannis said, who was feeling pretty irritated by now. "I am out of here," Alvis said, and he walked away. "You'll see that I'm right," Rannis yelled at his brother, who vanished behind the corner of another big wall. "Stubborn, pig-headed jerk," Rannis mumbled. "Now let's see. How do we find the right way? Maybe that little spike on top of the wall means something. Okay, so that's a spike. I don't think I've seen a spike before, so if I see it, then it could mean I am back at where I was before." This is the way he was analyzing everything he observed in the maze. He spent hours walking and turning around every corner, trying to attach a meaning to what he was doing. But after a while, he got exhausted. He felt it in his limbs, in his muscles, and everywhere else. Rannis was thirsty, and his eyelids felt like they could close any minute. Still, he kept going. He didn't give up. He pushed himself to turn around another corner and around another and another. Ugh, he said after a while. This is it. I can't do this anymore. He dropped to the ground and lay on his back. His eyes closed within seconds. He was dreaming away. He was out, just like that. The long hikes through the maze had taken a toll on him. He wasn't used to this much walking. Rannis's dream was pleasant at first. Lush grass and green hills were surrounding the young lost man. Nothing seemed to get in his way. The air was cool and flowers abounded as far as the eye could see. He climbed a tree and looked over the beautiful landscape in front of him. He squinted his eyes when he smelled the breeze take the flowery scents to his senses, and breathed in deeply. Life was great. It was all looking like a paradise. But then a creature appeared on the horizon. What's that? Rannis asked himself. It was green, and it came in a hurry. Its creepy paws were moving towards the tree. Rannis caught himself being scared and curious at the same time. What is that thing? He said. But he wasn't left in the dark for long. It wasn't much longer until the creature came close enough to be recognized. It was an explosive monster. It was green and ugly. Whoa, Rannis said. A monster! I better get out of here. But it was too late. The monster came to the tree, fully charged, and exploded in Rannis's face. Boom! Chapter 4. Explosive Enemies. Rannis woke up screaming, reaching into the emptiness with his hand in front of him. No! He yelled. Then he realized he just had a nightmare. He felt his head. He had a headache. This was awful. He slowly felt the energy being drained from him, as he also realized he was dehydrated. He needed water, and he figured that the best possible way to find it was to escape from this maze. As he buried his head in his hands, he wailed, "Oh, why did I split up with my brother? How long is this going to continue? Will we ever get out of here?" His self-pity wasn't strong enough to numb his senses, though. Suddenly, Rannis lifted up his head to see what made the sound. It was as if someone or something was crawling through the dirt in his direction. "What is that?" he said, as he stood up and took a few steps back. He squinted his eyes, but this time for real, to zoom in on the thing that approached him. It turned around the corner. It was green and had glowing red eyes. "A monster!" Rannis yelled. But he was wrong. It wasn't just one monster, because as soon as Rannis thought this would be an easy challenge, his pupils widened as he saw an entire army of monsters appear from behind the wall, ready to attack him. "Whoa!" Rannis screamed, and he ran away as fast as he could. "Left, right, left, middle, right, left," Rannis said while he was running and panting like crazy. Occasionally, he looked back to see if the monsters were still after him, and each time he concluded it would take a miracle to lose them completely. He looked back and didn't see them. Then he turned around and bumped into someone. "Ouch!" he said as he fell to the ground. When he looked up, he was relieved. "Alvis!" he shouted joyfully. "Wow, am I glad to see you!" "Save the chit-chat for later, brother. Dozens of monsters are following me. We have to go." "Gotcha. They are following me too," Rannis said. "What?" "Okay, that's it. We are getting out of this stupid maze," Alvis said. "I am dead tired. If we don't think of something, we're gonna die. What do you think we should do?" You're interested in what my opinion is now, are you?" Rannis said, a little sarcastically. "Stop arguing and think of something," Alvis said. "You're good at coming up with new ideas. I know you can do it, but please hurry." Okay, Rannis said, looking at some of the maze walls to see if the monsters were closing in. "Let me think for a second." "Yes, just a second, nothing more," Alvis said. "Hurry up. Do you have an idea or not?" Chapter 5. A Better Sense of Direction. Rannis was thinking and thinking. "Ah, got it," he suddenly said. "We can make the monsters explode the walls. That way we won't have to go around in circles." "But where do we go?" Alvis asked. "Which walls?" "Those," Rannis said. "See the shape of the mountains behind it? That's where the palace is. If we just have them blow up all the walls on that side." "But how?" Alvis insisted. How are your evading skills?" Rannis asked sheepishly. Alvis wasn't sure of the answer to that, because he had never tried to jump away from so many monsters before. The fact was, he had never even faced any monsters before in his life. He had just heard of them and read about them in books, so at least he recognized them. It didn't feel right, though. He had no experience. "I guess I can use those combat skills I learned at the palace," he said after a while. "Good, let's do it," Rannis agreed. The monsters were coming. They were running faster and faster at the dynamic duo. "Split up," Alvis said. "You'll go that way and I will go this way. Try not to evade too many at the same time. We only need the walls blasted on that side." Rannis ran the other way, attracting half of the monsters to follow after him. Alvis ran to the left side and taunted the monsters on his end to follow him. When he found a dead end, he simply stood still, waited for a monster to attack him, and then jumped away. Boom! The monster had blown a gap in the wall. "Thanks, buddy," Alvis said. After that, he ran through the gap and repeated the process with another wall. Sometimes the monsters came in pairs, sometimes in threes, sometimes by themselves. The two brothers were lucky that they didn't try to explode all at the same time. And while Alvis was taunting the monsters and jumping away each time, Rannis was doing the same thing at his own pace on the other side of the maze. Each time a monster or two blasted a hole in a wall, the brothers ran through it and came closer to the mountain area. They couldn't communicate with each other, but still they thought it was better to split up that way to draw less monsters to them at the same time. Eventually, there weren't that many monsters left, only a few. Alvis and Rannis both stood ready on two different sides of the maze, but, and they didn't know that about each other, only one wall away from each other, and not only that, but they were both one wall away from leaving the maze as well. The monsters that were left came at them with raging speed. 3, the brothers counted down in chorus, not realizing they were doing it both at the same time. 2, 1, jump! They both avoided the exploding monsters by jumping aside and landing on the ground. The debris from the explosions fell on their heads, but after a few seconds, the brothers stood up and were happy to leave the maze. When they saw each other so close, they were almost startled. "Whoa, you're already here," Alvis said. "I didn't realize you were right there," Rannis said. "Wow, such perfect timing. That's got to be a record, right?" "Oh, it definitely is. We are encircled by awesomeness, brother. Let's go to that palace up there in the mountains." "Good idea. Do you know where to find some water?" Rannis asked. "Ha ha! You can tell that you don't get out much. If you weren't so stuck with your nose in all those books in the library, you would know more about the area." "Oh, come on, Alvis. I like to become smart. You understand that, don't you?" "I'm street smart, my man. Street smart, that's what I am. There is a difference." "Oh, whatever." They went up the hills, following the nearest path they could find. The palace was shining majestically above the rest of the region. The destination seemed close, but it took a long time before they reached it. Rannis commented how ironic it was that the palace appeared to be so close when it actually wasn't, and Alvis snickered, not caring about such theoretical nonsense. They were quite the team when they worked together, but when they didn't, they were like a cat and a dog. Chapter 6. The Palace. When the two brothers arrived at the front gate, they felt at home again. How on earth did they ever end up in that maze? They thought for a minute, reflecting on their previous circumstances. "Aha!" Alvis said. "I remember now. It was the Count. He had planned this all along, but he probably assumed we would die in the maze. Well, time to show him what we're made of, brother. Hold on, Rannis said, stopping his older brother. If the Count really poisoned us like you say you remember, then he must be around. We can't just barge in there and pretend that we own the place. But we do own the place. Or have you forgotten that you are a prince, Rannis? Technically, our parents own the place, and you'll probably inherit it since you're the oldest. That's okay. I'll build you a summer palace in the countryside. How about that? Deal, Rannis said. But still, let's plan this first. We can't just walk in. Where are we going to go? Sure we can walk in, Alvis said. Piece of cake. Once the guards see that we're back, they'll arrest the Count and throw him in prison. Sounds simple enough to me. No, are you crazy? Don't do it. You'll get captured, or worse, killed. Oh, you're just scared, or too cautious. Either way, I'm going in there. Fine, Rannis said. See if I care. Fine, Alvis said, as he opened the gate and walked into their royal habitat. Rannis could break a wall at that moment. That's how frustrated he was. Why did his brother never listen? Well, I'll go around to the other side, Rannis decided. I'll go through that basement window nobody knows about and see what's going on inside the palace. He walked around the palace. Luckily, there were no guards. He shoved a few bushes and pieces of wood aside. There it was, a window in the ground, built into the palace as a quick emergency exit from the cellar. Rannis tried to open it, but it was locked. Figures, he said. Then he looked around to find some object to break it open. He tried a stick, a brick, and a piece of steel, but nothing worked. I hate doing this, he complained, but a guy's got to do what he's got to do. He took a rock and smashed the window. Clash! Clang, 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 clang. Hopefully nobody heard that, he thought. He climbed down the window and almost got lost in the vast obscurity of the basement. Eventually, he found his way to the stairs. He went up the stairs and opened the door to the palace hall. You're not going anywhere, he heard an annoying voice with a heavy accent say. It was the Count. He was from a foreign country and had been living in the palace for the past 12 years, but Rannis had never felt comfortable around him. The Count had always been trying to impress, but never listened, and sometimes Rannis thought he caught him plotting a revolution or something. And now he had poisoned them and put them in that maze. He was going to pay. You're not getting away with this, Rannis heard his brother yell. I already have. Ha ha ha! Rannis turned his head around the corner to spy on this suspicious scenario. He saw the Count laughing his head off with a sense of evilness Rannis despised. The guards were gone, and so were his parents, but skeletons were holding Alvis by his arms, preventing him from going anywhere. Just where did you get these disgusting skeletons anyway? Alvis asked. Oh, I made them. Aren't they great? The Count asked proudly. I have been practicing necromancy for years now. I tried to make your daddy realize that it was the future, that he should let me raise the dead from the graves, but he didn't agree. He said it was too risky. Silly him. I have to say, for a king, he is not the brightest. You slimy jerk! What are you going to do now? Alvis asked. I only raised about a dozen skeletons. It was enough to imprison all your dumb palace guards. Once I lock you up, I will raise hundreds, thousands of skeletons, and take over the country. I warned your father, but he wanted none of it, and now he has to face the consequences for his stubbornness. Any other questions before I dump you into that dark prison cell? Yes. Why the maze? Ha ha! That was just a little experiment. Didn't you know about the miner's maze? Oh well, I didn't expect you to understand. It was built to test soldiers before you were born, but it got deserted. I figured that if you were a true prince, you would be able to survive it, and apparently you did. By the way, that reminds me, where is your brother? He is, Alvis thought for a minute. He is dead, he lied. I watched him die in that filthy maze. He went the wrong way. "Oh, that's so sad," the Count said sarcastically. "That breaks my heart. Oh well." Then he turned to the skeletons and said, "Get rid of him." The skeletons dragged Alvis out of the room. Rannis hid behind the wall and observed the undead monsters from a distance. He knew that if he would free the guards and his parents, they could team up and defeat the skeletons and the Count with his help. So he followed the skeletons to the dungeons below the palace. When they were gone, he snuck into the prison alley between the cells and saw his parents, his brother, and the guards sitting there. "Rannis," his mother said. "Shh," Rannis said. "Quiet. I'll get you guys out. Where are the keys?" "One of the skeletons has it," the king said. "He's over there." Rannis's father pointed at a corner wall. Rannis figured the skeleton was probably standing guard behind it. He smiled at his dad and whispered, "Don't worry. I'll have it solved in no time." Chapter 7. The Rescue. Rannis tiptoed to the corner of the prison area beneath the palace. When he came there, he saw a skeleton leaning against a wall, holding a sword in its one hand and a sword in the other. Rannis analyzed the situation, as he always did, and then he took action. He sped towards the skeleton, elbowed it in the head, and grabbed its sword. Then he swung at the skeleton and chopped off its head. The skeleton fell over, and the head rolled into one of the prison cells. "Ah!" one of the guards screamed. "Oh, don't be a wimp," Rannis said as he came back with the keys. "No wonder those skeletons were able to beat you so easily. Come on, man up and free the palace." The first prison cell Rannis opened up was his brother's. Alvis looked him in the eyes and embraced him. "I'm sorry, little brother," he said. "I should have listened to you." "It's okay, man." He winked at him and said, "Time to show him what we're made of." Alvis laughed. They divvied up the keys, and within minutes, their parents and all the palace guards were released. The king took control and guided them to the palace armory. When they came there, they armed themselves with all kinds of weapons: spears, swords, axes, shields, bows and arrows, and more. "Let's get rid of these filthy skeletons," the king yelled, holding up his sword in the air. "We will drive them out and reclaim our palace. Let's go." The guards all went their separate ways, splitting up in duos to cover the entire palace. Alvis and Rannis went to the highest tower, hoping to find the Count there. Alvis led the way, rushing up the stairs and occasionally looking back to see his younger brother follow him. When they got there, the Count was astonished. What are you two doing here?" he asked. "Hey, I thought you said your brother was dead." "I lied. Now surrender. We have taken back the palace." "Ha ha ha," the Count said. "Ha ha 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 ha." He wouldn't stop laughing. Rannis and Alvis raised their eyebrows and looked at each other. "This is one happy fellow," Rannis commented as he sighed. The Count got out of it and said, "You think you've won? You haven't gotten past me yet." He pulled a sword and held it in front of him. "Come on, young boys. Give it your best shot." "He's pretty full of himself," Rannis said. "All right, I will defeat him," Alvis said. Then he dashed forward and tried to stab the Count, who quickly evaded his attack and banged him on the head. "Ouch," Alvis said as he fell to the floor. Then it was Rannis's turn. He made some slick moves with his sword, but the Count was too fast. Again, he avoided his attack as well and punched him in the face. Rannis fell down next to his brother. "Not as easy as it seems, is it?" Alvis asked. "No, but he sure is ugly," Rannis said. Alvis laughed. The Count, however, was not entertained. He wasn't too happy with this insult. Alvis confirmed it. "Yes, and he is old," he said. "And his sword looks like a giant broomstick." "Let's get this over with," Rannis said. "He's no match for us. We're the perfect two, as long as you and I work together. Let's skip the take turns thing. Let's storm at him at the same time." "Sounds good, brother. Ready? Go!" The two brothers came at the Count, who attempted to cross blades with them and fend off their hits, but he couldn't do it. The two brothers were finally collaborating, beating up the evil count who lost his sword in the process.
"So," Alvis said, "now that you dropped your weapon, you realize we have complete control, don't you?"
The count kept silent. He knew he had been defeated. "What a loser," Rana said, "feeding us poison and dumping us into that maze."
"What shall we do with him?"
Alvis asked. "Well, since he said the miner's maze was built to test soldiers, why don't we dump him there? If he's tough enough, he'll survive, won't he?"
"I think that's an excellent idea." "No," the count said. "Don't put me in there. There are monsters everywhere in that place."
"We know," Rana said with a smile. "But I think you forgot to mention there are man-eating plants as well."
"What?"
the count asked. "Never mind." The two brothers dragged the count down the stairs, which, according to the sounds he made, probably hurt a little. They threw him in front of the king, who decided to do exactly as Rannis had suggested. The three of them knocked out the count and put him into the maze. They dropped him onto the ground and left. As they were walking away, Rannis asked, "Do you really think he will survive?"
"I am sure he will," Alvis said. "Most of the monsters probably blew up when they were after us anyway."
"Yes, that must be true. But what if he gets out? Do you think he'll bother us again?"
"I doubt it. I think he learned his lesson, and if he ever comes back, then we'll just kick his butt again, won't we?"
"I love you, brother," Rannis said. "You never worry. It's just too funny."
"It's the good life, bro. The good life. Just taking it easy."
The end. This has been Maze Sprinters, Adventures in a Complicated Maze, Adventure Stories for Kids. Written by Jeff Child, narrated by John H. Feskins. Copyright 2017 by Jeff Child. Production copyright 2017 by Jeff Child.